You know what, actually, that's probably a bit much. Let's put that outside. Now that that abomination is gone from our house, but never from our hearts, we can remember that Halloween is a time to come together as one, dress as our favourite villains, and eat our body weight in chocolate. Isn't that right, Sid? So cats can't eat Kit Kats, the world we live in.
What are you doing, human?
Alien Isolation is a horror game everyone really likes, except maybe this guy. But its VR counterpart has been through quite a terrifying process to get it ready for playing in VR. You see, prior to its release in 2014, Alien Isolation was teased at E3 as being VR compatible.
Aliens Isolation. Aliens Isolation.
Aliens Isolation.
Around this time, the most advanced VR headset on the market was the Oculus DK2, which I will humorously refer to as the Oculus Donkey Kong 2. This headset was, while functional, still under development. We didn't have the overwhelmingly advanced and groundbreaking equipment we have today, like the Vive, or the Index, or the Cat.
Drop me and die, human.
There were also very few full-length AAA games available for VR. I mean, let's face it, there still really aren't any. So at the time, the VR release of this game was a big deal. Gamers were excited. Cats were nonplussed. I had no opinions as I thought VR was an underdeveloped medium, so didn't have a headset yet. Unfortunately, when the game was released, it was missing its VR option, and so the 24 millionaires who actually had an Oculus at the time were mildly annoyed. But really, as disappointment about the Alien series goes, this was pretty mild. It wasn't all that bad, of course. Alien Isolation itself was subtle, refined, demure. Rip out my eyes so I don't have to watch! I mean, yes, it made you shit your pants, but in a dignified manner, like when a cat shits. Many people say the game takes a long time to get started just because no real threats turn up right away, but I feel like the game uses its opening few hours to appropriately immerse you into the environment and establish an unsettling tone that is consistent throughout the whole game, rather than just relying on having a spooky monster that jumps out of a closet every now and again. The pacing also lets you get friendly with these human-shaped bags of red liquid that are inevitably going to get turned inside out by the walking penis monster of the hour. I mean, Geraldo here, getting his eyes pulled out of his arsehole later on, is meaningless without a good bit of character development. I love it when my retinas are attached to the inside of my head. It's all the more tragic now. So at some point or another, Sega or Creative Assembly obviously decided to scrap the VR version of the game, and it became lost forever. But not really. Reddit caught wind of this, focused their efforts, and after hundreds and hundreds of hours of unpaid volunteering and hard work, they helped end world hunger. No, they got the game working. They cracked it open and pulled the VR version out by its juicy bits. As far as I can make out, the general framework for Alien Isolation VR was still in the released version of the game, and it just required some divine skills of a couple dozen Mr. Robots to get it out. And so they did, hopefully without the need for heroin. There's a lot to be said about the journey Alien Isolation VR went on from its first release on the DK2 to now, but it's not really all that relevant to this review. What I will say is getting the game to run passably in VR definitely wasn't just a simple job of finding some code in the game and switching it off. It was a long and winding road, headed by the living genius and modder Zach Fannon. Everything aside, the VR version of this game is a free mod, and once you've downloaded it, it installs itself in seconds, is fully customizable within the game, and is definitely worth trying out. It isn't perfect, and I will discuss the issues as we go through, but whatever I say, whatever I did, I didn't mean it. But I said I didn't mean it. No, whatever I say, he has done some truly unbelievable work. So, what is the game like now? What is the result of all these years of hard work and dedication? It's fucking horrible! It's the most unpleasant game I've ever played in my life. It makes Silent Hill look like Zootopia, Amnesia like Home Alone, Resident Evil like Finding Nemo. Actually, that one was pretty scary. Let me explain. I was once playing Skyrim VR and merrily walking down a path at night. Suddenly, there was a noise in the bushes. I looked around, confused. A shadowy figure suddenly emerged, sprinting straight towards me. Shia LaBeouf. No, it's not him, it's that fucking courier. Shia surprise. No, but I swear to you, I Shia shat myself. And that's the power of VR. Because you're totally immersed within the game, everything that happens is all the more convincing. Terrifying. I mean, all he really wanted to do was give me a little note that says, "We know." Who could have sent this?
Your time is coming, human.
Can you imagine what it would have been like if instead it was one of these running full pelt at me through the tranquil nights of Skyrim? My worst fears have been realized! You may notice I'm not reviewing the game exactly. And honestly, it's because for the first few hours, I could barely fucking play it. When I play a game that I'm going to review, I usually stream it. Twitch.tv/UpIsNotJump. I stream New Vegas every Sunday. But for the first few hours, I kept instinctively dropping to the floor whenever a light switched off. Honestly, it's a good thing someone didn't tap me on the shoulder while I was playing this game, or I may have overreacted slightly. As I've said, VR automatically has an advantage in horror, as you are very convincingly in this world that for some reason has strawberry jam all over everything. But as you can imagine, just sharing a room with this fully three-dimensional hulking dildo monster really takes the cake. So keeping that in mind, with VR, all you would theoretically need to do is make a few rooms, drop in a giant vagina monster with legs into one of them, and you would have a scary experience. Although maybe that says more about me than anything else. I've had worse days. Alien Isolation VR, though, is a far more impressive horror game than this, for various reasons. I've had worse days. The standout feature of this game is that the Xenomorph isn't really treated like a boss monster at all. It's basically its own character that you have to learn to understand. It has a personality, if not a very specific one, and it organically explores the station with what seems like its own free will. You can't predict where it's going to go next, and honestly, it sometimes feels like it's going about its business, and I'm just getting in the fucking way. All that guy did was ask what time it was. As a result, you find that you're always moving around slowly, checking every corner, and making as little noise as possible. You learn quickly that with this kind of behavior, you'll never get caught. Oh, for fuck's sake! The game's focus on stealth makes it perfectly suited for playing in VR, mainly because you yourself are able to lean around corners, quickly check what's behind you while you walk, and peek over tables to see what is in the room ahead. It honestly leads to a hilariously engaging and immersive experience. Who would describe this as hilarious? But it isn't just that. Take this, for example. You are passing through a room thinking about where to go next. Suddenly you hear a noise. You scan the area for cover and see a nearby table. Quietly you move towards it, climb under, and wait. Suddenly the noise gets louder, closer. Slowly you see as the monster comes into view. It walks past you through the room with its tail trailing along the ground. Ooh. Alien Isolation is filled with classic moments like these, and they are perfect homages to the slasher movies that first inspired the Alien series. Homages. Homan. You get to watch as the giant three-dimensional tail slithers past, nearly touching you. You get to lean forward and peek through a grating to see if anything's coming. All in all, it's incredibly fun and something you won't quickly forget. Don't worry, I didn't need to sleep tonight anyway. It also made me realize we don't give nearly enough credit to the characters in horror movies or scary games. All these people fighting for their lives against that week's pulsating Spider Christ or Scorpion King. Let's face it, if I was in this situation with an acid-filled hard-on monster and whatever in Christ's name is going on there, I'd give up all hope, slather myself in hot sauce, and run around banging pots and pans together with my eyes closed. Eat me! Eat me! You expect me to what? Hide in a fucking locker? Nah, man, I'm going out tasting of Chipotle. The first thing people will probably notice when they play this game is that although the Vive and Oculus controllers can be used to play, they aren't actually tracked within the game world. So you can't use them to manually aim or reach out and interact with objects like you can in most VR games. Let's be honest though, I'm only complaining about this because it means in times of high stress I can't heroically block out the world with my tiny arms. Oh, that's better. You will also probably notice that in the VR version of the game, you have a rendered body floating below you the whole time. So when you look down, you're actually looking inside yourself and see an ominous pair of unattached legs floating about.
Use me in your videos more, boy.
There's nothing there, there's nothing there, there's nothing there.
A similar but far more problematic thing occurs when you interact with objects, like crawling into vents, saving your game, or even entering cutscenes that you view in the first person. These actions cause your body in the game and the camera itself to start moving around without your control. It would be like if you were having a normal conversation and your body was just doing things without your consent. And this can be massively disorientating and nausea-inducing. It is particularly bad in certain in-game cutscenes like this one that start when you're close to a wall, because your head invariably starts moving into the scenery, making your view go completely black. I mean, I'm missing this now. Some kind of important and definitely friendly interaction could be going on out there. Hand-holding, hugging, a respectful discussion of quantum fluctuations of magnetic dipoles in resonance imaging. Couldn't agree on the nuclear spin states, I see. A common hurdle. What am I talking about? Honestly, though, I play quite a lot of VR Weird Flex, so rarely get that sick anymore. My major problem with this mod is whenever I read a computer monitor. You see, your character sort of hunkers down to the screen, which is fine. But as far as I can make out, these screens you read are just the in-game monitors that have been zoomed in on. This gives these computer screens a very low resolution, making them incredibly unpleasant to read.
Help me.
You can turn up the in-game graphics quality, which helps, but honestly, past a certain point, it sounds like my computer is filling up with bees. Although I've just made a lot of complaints, these honestly don't come together to ruin the experience for me at all. The game itself is so well designed and fun to play, it's very easy for me to overlook these issues. As well as this, and I can't emphasize this more, the quality of the 3D graphics, on the Index at least, are absolutely stunning, and it's honestly one of the best looking VR games I've ever played. The lighting and art design as well are practically faultless and a perfect homage to the earlier movies, not this one. And for me, seeing the Alien universe come to life in full working virtual reality makes the whole experience worthwhile. You see, when it's all said and done, I'd say the biggest appeal of VR for me is being able to see and interact with my favorite characters and settings in fully realized 3D. I've had worse days. Elite Dangerous gave me the stars. The Lab showed me GLaDOS. Fallout 4 gave me whatever it was that was good about that game. And Skyrim had the Jarl. I can give this an 11, right?
Johnny and Speedo. Budgie Smuggler's Johnny.